Greetings, friends, and welcome to my studio in Carmel. Thank you for joining me. And we'll be reading from the Teachings of Yama, Chapter 7. We'll be looking at developing character, practicing the virtues, absolute truth versus relative judgments, and harmlessness. If you like this, please hit that like button and subscribe. I bowed and thanked my guide. You have illustrated well the efficiency of thinking of God and uttering His holy names. Please tell me how else one can escape the attachment to life and death. I am pleased with your earnestness. I will continue, for any teacher wants to enlighten a worthy student. As a river needs to have strong high banks to channel the waters of the thaw of spring, so as not to lose its power to reach the sea, the goal of all rivers, in the dispersal of a flood, so too must an aspirant develop character. Please explain what defines character. To develop character, one must cultivate the following virtues. Patience. Without it, a man is restless, always on the move, agitated and anxious. The mind is as a bird tossed upon the winds of a storm. The moment is never realized, living only in tomorrow's hopes. With patience, a man is calm and will become fertile soil for the seeds of grace to be planted. From patience will grow faith, as a farmer knows that by watering and caring for his crop, a harvest will soon be had. For faith is a knowing that in the calmness of patience, only good can be gained, which follows a law set by God. And with that faith comes trust. Without trust, a man burns in fear, and all around him I place mirrors to reflect his frightful dreams, and all the world seems to carry swords to make true his mistrust. Yet with trust I will remove all mirrors, and the sweet pastures of the world will begin to be seen. For he will begin to see his glorious divine self that is both within and without. Arising from trust is contentment. Contentment is not complacency, as many will be misguided in believing. Complacency gives birth to sloth and sloppiness, whilst contentment leads into gratitude. All that comes to the aspirant is seen as coming from God. All of the world is blessed by such a one because everything is seen as divine. From gratitude flows cheerfulness. Everything being of God arouses joy, and that joy takes flight and flies like a butterfly from person to person, pollinating cheer in everyone. The world is so full of shadows. Cheerfulness dispels all of them. These virtues must be cultivated. Cultivate one and the others will follow. For as in all things, the whole is found in the part if you go deep enough. I thank you for your speaking of these virtues. Are there more to help one's end suffering? Indeed, listen well. Practice kindness to all beings, not only in deeds, but in words and thought. Harm none. See everyone as your closest brother. When speaking, always spread the truth, yet speak it kindly, and only when asked for, or if a situation requires it. And if a thought of ill arises, of judgment, counter it immediately with a blessing. Thoughts create the world. If all the people in the world thought kindly for just one day, I would no longer have this job of death. Dear sir, I said, forgive my question, yet those who have seen their family killed, or for that matter all those who have seen their loved ones taken away by you, no doubt would say that while you espouse kindness, you are in no way kind in your actions. What you say may be true. However, in truth, I'm simply a servant of man. What man thinks, says, or does, each one being a seed, I take and plant in time, and I become the fruit for every man to eat. Only man is free to be kind or not. The gods and demons only do as directed by the universal will or mind. Man, in the relative scheme of things, stands in the middle between God and demon. That is why he makes such a mess of things, and I have to do all the cleaning up. A thankless task, let me tell you. Thank you. So really you give to each what they believe they want, and what they believe to be true. Yes, said Yama, looking pleased. Please tell me more virtues to cultivate. Practice truth, always. All the worlds rest on truth. There is no difference between truth and God. There exists in the apparent chaos of the universe an order. If for a moment God was false, gods would become demons, demons into gods. The sages would speak lies, and the satiation of desires would be the ideal for all to aspire towards. Inside would turn outside, thick would become thin, and all would be paradoxes. But wait a minute, I said. It seems that the more one nears the truth, paradoxes are everywhere, such as to be rich is to be poor, to be first is to be last, etc., etc., etc. You're right. However, if God was to be false, all true paradoxes would not be paradoxical anymore. So the rich would be rich, and the first would actually be first. Yama smiled. Understand? No, but that's okay, I said quickly, my head spinning with paradoxes and paradoxes, such as, if God was false, then when inside would become outside, which is a true metaphysical paradox, what would that mean? Would the normal outside, which in truth is the normal inside, turn into the false outside? And if that was true, then I forced my mind to stop chasing such notions. Right. I trust that truth is all important. Please continue. A difference between a man of truth and someone of the world is that the former does everything he says everything he thinks, and thinks only what is true. Rare is such a one. Yama continued. To know the truth is to sharpen the sword of discrimination between what is valuable and what is not. To distinguish the valuable from the invaluable is not always easily discernible, I said. For instance, I may be starving and give away my gold for a loaf of bread, and then again I may give up eating a meal so I may buy a book I deem needed for my growth. Your examples only show that in the world one thing may be valuable for one moment and then worthless the next. There is nothing in the world that is not that way. An army may be valuable one moment for a country and the next be a financial drain. A husband may be valuable to have for some woman as a source of security, only to become a restriction for her freedom. To win enormous wealth may be valuable to fulfill one's desire and to live comfortably in the world, yet if the poor revolt, the same wealth may be one's death. What I mean by valuable is only that which holds its value throughout time, untouched by the inflation of time and by fleeting desires of the mind. Well, I said, that only leaves God, for there is not much outside of time. Only the eternal would be outside of time. There you go. Now that is wielding the sword of discrimination. Only the permanent is valuable. The eternal truth is that only God is valuable. All that is fleeting is false. The transitory offers nothing valuable, nothing of substance. Taking joy by obtaining something is like a man believing the sweet words of a prostitute. The wise constantly meditate on what is valuable and what is not, and cut away from their attention the false. Then does one ignore the things of the world? Do the wise avoid everything that is transitory, I ask? Of course not. That would be silly and highly impractical, not to mention impossible. The wise are only concerned with the eternal substance, God, the Self, the noumenon, the absolute being. In that way they are not fooled by the promise of things to fulfill them, to make them happy. By being focused on only absolute happiness, they can truly enjoy all that is transitory because they can let them come and go without restrictions and grief. Thank you. Please tell me more, I implored. Harm none in thought, words, or deeds. For when one knows the truth that only God exists, and thus all is God and in God, thus the idea of separation has no basis of reality. Why would one harm another? Why would one cut off one's hand if it drops the ball? Every creature is part of the body of all that is. Dear Yama, I understand that it is wise not to harm anyone or anything, being that we are one, in truth, oneself. Good, very good. However, I continued, how can one avoid harming? Just breathing, I destroy unseen creatures. Do you suggest we all become as some jays who sweep the ground before each step, lest they step on an insect and who cover their mouths not to suck any in? Yama smiled. There is a difference between harming and hurting. To harm is to intentionally inflict pain or death onto another with malicious intent. Hurting is simply being an instrument in the hands of time. Everyone who is attached to the form of the way things should be will suffer, will experience hurt. Look at that couple. Yama pointed to a man and woman sitting on a park bench, holding and caressing each other with their whole beings glowing with passion. In a few months' time, he will need to choose between going away to college, as was planned by his parents, or staying with her. Either way, she or his parents will be hurt. Yet he is harming neither, for his intent is not to inflict pain. He will be only making a choice in time. What about eating, I asked. Something must die in order for me to eat. In truth, nothing dies. Death is only bodies changing forms, as the wise know. All is God. All is the one self, the all in all. How can God kill God? How can God be killed? However, before one is firmly established in that awareness, when one still flinches at a swinging sword or runs from a raging bull, eat as subtly as you can. Animals are densest and closest to humans. They feel pain, suffer fear, and some of the higher forms possess self-awareness. Eating such creatures harms them and harms oneself, for the feelings of the animals, their propensity to flee or fight, adds fuel to the feeling of me. Dear Yama, I asked, do not many traditional cultures eat meat? And is it wrong for them to do so? Yes, many cultures have eaten meat and killed the creatures in a sacred manner that created a conscious partnership between man and animal. And in some areas of this earth, man can only exist by the flesh of animals. Yet in this dark age, beasts are cut down by machines after living a life of trapped horror. There is nothing sacred in this, no sharing, no gratitude, only murderous greed. It is intentional harm. Eating these poor creatures only eats fear and greed. So while there is still a sense of feelings with vegetation, as they have a reaction to pain, there is no sense of me at all. Plants are like the hair of the earth. Still, gratitude needs to be given in the growing, harvesting, and eating to please me. As plants are more calm than the ever-watchful beast, and as you are what you eat, eating vegetation assists in having a calmer mind. So it is good to be a vegetarian, I said, feeling good about myself that I had chosen the right path years ago. Yama shook his head and wagged a finger at me. Become nothing. Be nothing. Being a vegetarian is but a cage. It can be a means. It is no end. And with every individual there are special needs. It is better to eat meat with humility and gratitude than to eat a piece of broccoli with pride or fear that if you do not eat vegetation, you will fall spiritually. It is simply that eating plants instead of animals will help most assist the mind in becoming calmer and helps create less harm on this planet. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and I will see you for chapter 8, I hope. Cheers.